If you avoid the dip, if you avoid the winter times in your life, you will ultimately create relationships, create a life, create a business that drains you, that misses the mark, and you're going to be blocking yourself from so much success and power. My friends, the ideal of life in my eyes is not to work harder and set this goal and just try to grind your way there. It is to live in a more frictionless way, to get in tune with your own intuition and let your intuition and your actions become one and the same, to live more instinctually, really. And this is what power is. Power comes from the combination of the electric or the yang and the magnetic or the yin. And in our culture, we do everything humanly possible to avoid the magnetic, to avoid the yin. Meaning that we don't let ourselves be in stillness. We don't honor feeling emotions, feeling the serenity of winter, and watching energy return back to us, right? We're always going outward. And ultimately, this is blocking you, me, and the majority of people on Earth from living a fully actualized life. When we avoid the dip, my friends, in my experience, I'm going to share a few stories here before I get deeper into some of the more esoteric, Taoist concepts here that are really actually changing my life right now. But I grew up very ambitious. Graduated #1 in my class, was trying to start businesses and trade stocks and play sports and be a party animal, trying to just the maximum experience of life. I've always been chasing the ultimate high, really. And this led me into a lot of trouble in the sense of just starting all these projects, just being so dumb and naive, trying to start SEO projects for real estate agents and dropping out of, college and getting deep into addictions and just constantly chasing the light, constantly chasing the experience of life. And yeah, it's fun when you're 19, when you're 20, when you're 21, but this shit grows old, right? And eventually the thrills kind of go out of life and life starts getting heavier and heavier and heavier and just more dissatisfied. For the past few years of my life, I've been trying to replicate experiences of, rapture with God, or experiences of replicating that first high at a festival, or experiences of falling in love with a woman. And it's just not it, right? It's not it because it's essentially chasing outwards still, right? And the more that I avoided the dips in my life, the more I stayed in relationships that should have ended years ago. The more I stayed in businesses that weren't in alignment with me. And the more I kept doing things in the wrong way, really. And I slowly learned this over the years. There's been quite a few things in my life compounding recently that have been making this revelation fully alive for me. A few months ago, my YouTube channel, my main YouTube channel, was going through a big slump, averaging 10,000 views a video to all of a sudden averaging 1,000 views a video. And at the time I had quit my, bartending serving job to go full time, making YouTube videos, building the men's academy, the men's group, and doing coaching and starting, a YouTube mastermind. So I was just going full time on the creator mode, and everything wasn't working. Nothing was working, right? And I was what is going on? And the overwhelm kept building. I kept trying harder. I kept working harder. I was watching Alex Hormozi. I was just getting into it, and it just wasn't working. And I met this girl. We fell in love briefly for the last 4 months. We broke up last week. So this is compounding the dip energy, right? But we went out on a camping trip. And I remember on that camping trip, just having this bad dreams, not sleeping well, waking up just feeling so stressed out about work and what to do. And I was honestly about to give up on YouTube. I was going to give up on all of this. Been doing YouTube for 13 years, and I was about to just throw the hat in. And I just sat there like all morning, just feeling the feeling of death, of it's over, right? And it's amazing that when I fully let go of it, right? When I fully let go of YouTube, I watched the energy like return back to me from this thing that I've been doing, right? And I just let it go. I set it down. And over the next 2 days, I got some deep insight on what direction to take my channel and what I really actually want to make. Like what is coming from inside of my soul out into the world, instead of me trying to respond to the world and make something work. It was like, what is inside of me that wants to be expressed? And I decided I wanted to make, pieces of art, like really high potency pieces of content, and started working, right? The same thing happened a month earlier when I started this personal YouTube channel. I was going through a big dip. I had gone to a festival, right? And at this festival, we were doing a lot of, drinking, smoking, a little bit of powders, dancing, friends, socializing. It's a constant yang expression outward energy, right? And if you've ever been to a music festival and you come back from it, you know the dip. It's one of the worst dips out there. And at that time, I was in between houses. I was moving, and I ended up going up to this house in Breckenridge. And it's a very lonely place for me. I've gone through heartbreak there quite a few times. It's very serene, severe, quiet place. And I was avoiding it with every part of me. I was texting friends hey, can I crash at your place? I was trying to find a house to rent. And I ended up needing to go there, and I went up there. And the first couple of days were really hard, especially after all that stimulation at the festival, and just to be tired and just to be by myself. I avoid that. I think we all avoid that. We avoid that with social media. We avoid that with friends. We avoid that by, working harder, staying busy. We avoid the harder parts of life, right? The bad feelings of life. And for one of the really first times in my experience, I just fully embraced it with I don't give a fuck attitude. Whatever, I'm just gonna fully feel this and fully let this suck in without escaping myself at all. And it was a hard couple of days, but honestly, the moment you fully surrender to that negative experience, it becomes really positive. It becomes really joyful. And I came out of that so connected to myself, to serenity, to peace. I've never experienced anything like it. And this whole YouTube channel came as a product of that. I remember just romping through nature, making videos, and just feeling it was such a natural expression of my soul. This is exactly what I am meant to do. And I almost guarantee you this channel in the years to come will be more successful than my main channel. And it's so joyful and meaningful and fulfilling for me to make videos like this, because it's just straight from the heart, And it's because I got down into the center, right? I found the note again. Through all the noise, I found the signal. And I came to this place of feeling so content with myself for the first time since the previous breakup that I no longer cared about dating. I no longer cared about finding friends or finding a woman. I was just if I'm going to be a teacher man in the forest, making content, praying, meditating, having fun, training, and going to dances and stuff, I'd be content with that. I was content with nothing, right? And it was such a glorious time. Right after that, it led to meeting that woman, right? And led to a beautiful relationship, led to a lot of magic. And that's kind of a season of balance in my life, right? Ultimately, these cycles of success, of yang, of expansion, are always followed by cycles of contraction, right? By a dip and then a rise. And the better we can get at noticing these seasons and riding the waves well, the more naturally joyful, peaceful, and powerful our lives will become. This is the goal of life, to make life into a natural and effortless expression of your power, right? That's the goal. It's not to become Alex Hormozy or, Goggins or whatever role model you look up to. It's about actualizing the essence of your power. And this is how you tap into the magic of life. But a couple things block us deeply from that magic of life. And the number one thing is running from the dip, running from the return of energy. And we do this in 3 ways all the time. The first one is just unconsciously, through distractions, through just trying harder, through staying busy, through just going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And through this path of always chasing things in the world, what's going to happen is it's going to lead to greater and greater dissatisfaction and greater misalignment because you're missing the signal. And I know for me that oftentimes my life starts to feel heavy. I start feeling dissatisfied with everything. Like the relationships aren't enough, the work isn't enough, the dreams aren't enough. Like, will life ever be enough? And that feeling of dissatisfaction, which is like the first noble truth of Buddhism, which is life is suffering, life is dissatisfaction. When you are in that state of feeling and being, it's a call inward. It's a call to surrender. Instead of chasing the next high or chasing the next level in your business or chasing the next level in personal development, it's actually about surrendering and going down to find God. It's about finding, oftentimes, for instance, my meditations start feeling hollow. Like I'm just craving God, but I'm not finding God. And it's because I'm trying to go up instead of just fully surrendering and just letting go of my desire to even connect with God, letting go of my attachment to an outcome. It's the same thing with work. It's like if I'm feeling dissatisfied with work or hollow, it's like I need to let it go, or I just need to go downward, like literally finding God downward is how I think about the yin cycle. So that's the first way we avoid the dip, is just through constant not letting ourselves do that. Not letting ourselves come back into stillness and letting the waters settle. My friends, your natural state is peaceful joy. Your natural state is presence and power. That is the essence of your spirit. And if you're not feeling that, it's because you're being called inward, but you don't recognize the call because the world is so exciting and the senses are so exciting, right? So it's just recognizing that call. The second way that we avoid the dip is if you have an avoidant personality. This is how life works generally. In business, you'll have a honeymoon phase of, hey, I have a new project, I'm inspired, we start working on it, and then you come into the dip part, right, where it gets hard. Maybe it's a few months or a year in or whatever, and it's like, I don't know if this is gonna work. You realize how far the journey is. You get overwhelmed, shit's failing, you're in a slump, right? A lot of people will leave at that slump period and just go to the next project or chase the next point of inspiration. It's the same thing in relationships. A lot of people go through the honeymoon phase and then they realize, oh, relationships actually work, and we're not just, starstruck lovers forever. And then they leave that relationship and then they go chase something new because it's more exciting, and they never create real depth in their life because they never actually go fully through that dip, right? And rise to the other side to a higher high. So that's kind of like that avoidant energy. If you're like me though, you avoid the dip the third way. The third way we run from the dip, and this is the way I run from the dip if you're like me, is I'm actually kind of a pansy. I've been realizing. It's funny, I train hard, I'm good at discipline and things like that, but when grief comes, when those darker, more irrational emotions come, I really don't like to face it. When I'm called to stillness, I intuitively know at a deeper level, just let go, stop trying, stop wanting, stop desiring, and just let go. And I just suck at letting go. I'm kind of a pansy at just facing, the process of coming back into the place of being. And this is why I've held on to addictions. I've held on to relationships. I've held on to patterns in my life far, far too long, for years past their expiration date. And it's simply because I wasn't willing to face the darkness, to surrender with the heart of a warrior. And I think this is like the main medicine of all of this whole video, right? Is when the cycle returns and it's time to come down. It's time to watch the return of energy, right? And the clearing out of attachments, the clearing out of emotions. It's to do that with lightness and with faith. I was meditating just last night by the lake over here. And oftentimes when I meditate, I try to go upward, right? I'm like aspiring to the ideal state, the ideal avatar, the state of the sun, or I'm focused on training my mind and keeping it still. And my meditations lately have been really informal. And the only thing I'm trying to do is literally just surrender. Just feel, excavate, feel, and see what's beneath this, what's beneath this, what's a deeper feeling, what's a deeper embodiment, right? And it's amazing that in this process, I'm realizing that I'm finding the mystery in the darkness, right? I felt like in the past 4 years of my life, it's been a slow process of losing God. I used to have all of these like powerful mystical experiences of rapture, of like, you know, kind of like that spiritual awakening kind of energy. And I've been trying to like recreate those for a long time, you know, and it's never worked. It's never really worked. I just felt like disconnected and like craving God, but not knowing how to reach it, like craving self, craving peace, but it's always been like intangible and fleeting. And I've been finding it more and more and more simply just by asking what's beneath this, instead of going up to like try to get to the next level in business or the next level in meditation. I'm just going down, right? And it's amazing. And bringing that same kind of mindset into, you know, emotions. And in that meditation last night, this really clear image of the Buddha came to me, and I was feeling some grief. I was just feeling some pains in my body, and I was just like, just fully accepting it. And the image of the Buddha came to me, and it was the Buddha surrendering into death, right? With a subtle smile on his face. Have you ever seen that statue of the Buddha where he's like perfectly serene, but you can tell he's fully surrendered? Yet he has a subtle smile on his face. And that subtle smile, it comes from faith, and it comes from a knowing of the self, a knowing that beneath these waters and these turmoils and these feelings, right, it is the immortal spirit, is the essence of who you are, right? And it just brought this like subtle smile to my face as I just kept going down. And yeah, I don't want to get too esoteric or too spiritual on all y'all, but like I'm trying to explain these like really profound, elusive, and subtle energies in life, which is the yin and the yang, the downward and the upward. And I think the best piece of advice that I've ever heard, and it's been really sticking with me in these past months of my life, is to go lightly with a subtle smile, like into grief, into emotions, into death, into work, into vision, into your goals, into life. It's to go lightly, right? When you're trying too hard, you're missing the yin, and when you're just like fully dissolved, you're not going anywhere, right? It's just to go lightly. And it's very interesting is when you do ride these cycles and you come back into the yin and then you rise into the yang, like really naturally, you notice these emotions happening inside of you and into the world. What happens is it feels like life is a manifestation of instinct, right? It's a manifestation of magic. instead of something you're trying to do or trying to chase or an experience you're trying to have, it's like, yeah, I don't even know how to describe that. But the last point I want to leave you guys with is, I think everyone's temperament and nature who's watching this is different. You're slightly different than me. A lot of you guys are probably driven men. And if you're a driven man, just notice when the cycle of yin comes, when the cycle of winter comes, and just love it in with lightness. Like, really embrace it, my friends, because it's a source of renewal for you. And it's a source of new peace and new insight. Like, if you're lacking, like, your natural state, as I said, is peaceful joy. And if you're lacking that and you're lacking insight on where to go, or things are feeling overwhelming or not quite in alignment, it's because you need to go down, find the insight, clear out the gunk, and then rise again. But for everyone watching this, you have a different temperament than me, meaning that you have a different balance of yin and yang inside of you. And some people are already like really good at the yin. They're really slow, they're still, they love excavating, they love feeling, they love being. And for them, they have that structure in place. It's not something they need to work on. What they need to work on is actualizing the discipline of the yang, the willpower, the forward moving energy. And the whole goal of life is to build your pillar of yang and to build your pillar of yin, to understand both of these, bring them to their crescendo, and then let life happen through them, right? In the sense of, I'm not trying to be disciplined, I'm just naturally am disciplined. And I'm just working on allowing the yin to come through that. If you're on the other side, it's like, it's the opposite, right? And I think in this is how you come into kingship as a man. This is what I want to finish this video on. Is a lot of my life I've been a warrior, the warrior archetype or a hero archetype, where I'm like desiring, I'm aspiring, I'm working, I'm trying to figure out things, I'm slaying dragons, I'm trying to conquer, right? It's beautiful. I love that energy, but I'm letting it go. Like, I don't really need it anymore. Like, I am disciplined. I have the structures built in my life. Now I can just bring lightness into it, right? More peace, more power, more openness. And that is where kingship comes from. Kingship comes from the balance of the yin and the yang, and this creates openness and power. And I think that's the ultimate goal for every man and woman watching this, is to recognize, hey, I'm more yin, I need to cultivate my yang. Hey, I'm more yang, I need to cultivate my yin. And hey, going through these cycles and motions of life, just notice, am I in a part of the day or the year where it's a return of energy, or am I called and noticing the outward expression of energy? And the more that we can balance that, the more we find the Tao, which is the self, which is the source of it all. And I think from that point, your highest life will manifest. I mean, this is, at the highest level, this is how you become a sage, right? This is how you tap into the pure magic of life and like let it flow through you. And I mean, some of this might sound woo, it might sound overly spiritual to people, but my friends, this life is far more mysterious and magical than we give it credit for. And we just block ourselves from it because we don't ride the cycle of it anymore. Like, I think the main reason that a lot of us avoid the dip is fear. It's fear of discomfort. It's fear of loss. It's fear of letting go, right? It's fear of just being with ourselves and seeing what comes up. This shit's hard. Like, going through heartache, going through heartbreak, letting go of things, letting things die, like fully surrendering into death. Like, all that shit's so scary. You know, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, it's unpleasant. And the more that we can smile and love that part of life, the more powerful and juicy the rest of life will become. If you want to talk to me one-on-one and join our men's group, we are building brotherhood, and I run calls just like this live 5 times a week. So if you want to come join like-minded men, there's a link below to talk to me about that one-on-one. I would love to have you come try it out for a month. I would love to meet all you guys. Thanks for being on this journey with me. My name is Christian. Hopefully I'm going to keep doing more authentic shares like this. If you like that, let me know. Check out this video right here. If I leave one in the end screen, peace.